Hello. Today I'm going to continue reading from the Khabouris manuscript, the beautiful Sermon on the Mount. I'm going to begin chapter 5, verse 38. You have heard it said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But as opposed to this, I say unto you, do not compete in kind with evil. Instead, he who strikes you on the right cheek, turn to him also the other. And he who desires to litigate against you to take your shirt, give him also your mantle. He who would force you with him for 1 mile, go with him 2. He who asks of you, give to him, and he who desires a loan from you, do not refuse him. You have heard that it was said to unconditionally love your neighbor and hate your adversaries. But as opposed to this, I say unto you, have a mindset of love for your adversaries, and bless him who curses you. Be kind unto him who hates you. Pray for those who govern you violently and persecute you. Thus should it be with the children of your Father in heaven. He who makes the sun rise on the heavenly and on the evil, and brings down the rain on the just and on the wicked. For if you set your mind with love for those who have it for you, what reward is there for you? Behold, do not your publicans do the same? And if you inquire for the well-being of your friends, what have you gained? Behold, do not your publicans do the same? Thus let your love be all-inclusive, even as that of your Father in heaven is all-inclusive. All right. Well, begins, the first thing that strikes me as very interesting is where he says, you have heard it said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, but as opposed to this, I say unto you, do not compete in kind with evil. Instead, he who strikes you on the right cheek, turn to him also the other. Well, you see, the idea is to overcome evil with good. So, what that means is, see, if somebody, you see how easy it is. If someone says something mean to you, then what's the tendency to do? To say something mean back. If somebody takes something from you, the tendency to just take something back. You see? If somebody looks at you mean, then the tendency is to look back mean. See? But can't you see that if you do that, first of all, you've sunk to their level. They brought you down to their level. Secondly, you're reacting to temptation. See, you're reacting to temptation. Now remember, animals react to the environment. Animal has no choice. That's what it does. It reacts to the environment. The humans were meant to respond to the inner, and then to do what is appropriate concerning the outer. You respond to the inner, and then do or say, if something is required, appropriately, as you are given it from the inner. Okay? So what that sometimes means is just patience, not reacting at all. But you see, the person who is inward, who is directed, who has a rapport with the inner good, a rapport with the inner light, which I've talked about all the time. I've talked about intuition now for 26 years. Every program I've ever made, every book I've ever written, every article I've ever written, see, every video I've ever made. It's always, I talk about intuition. I say it's your closest link to God. Okay? And it's how you wordlessly know things, by the inner light. Now that's where you should always look for guidance. You look to within, to your Creator, who informs you inwardly and privately through your intuition. See? So you respond to your Creator And then you respond or do or say if something needs to be done or said. Maybe only nothing needs to be said, just patience. But if something needs to be said, then it'll come to you from within. See? And that way you are, as I said in some of my recent videos, which I made on courage, I said you thereby move in your own time and space. See, the spiritual person is actually a little bit out. You're a little bit outside of time. You walk upon this earth and you do things, but you're in the world and not of the world, as Christ said. You're in the world, but not of the world. So there's a little distance. There's a little distance there. And that little distance is your protection. It's your protection because you are outside of time and you're close to your Creator. You're close to the inner light. And you're safe there. See? Now, once in a while, something will come along that requires you to respond in some way, or at least take note of what's going on. See, a lot of things that happen doesn't concern you at all. A bird flies overhead, there goes an airplane, there goes a car, those two people are talking. See, it doesn't concern you at all. But once in a while, especially when it comes to your family, your wife, your husband, your kids, your brother, your sister, your mom, your dad, okay? Or your friends, or someone. Or someone approaches you, see, a boss or coworker with something. Well, then you have to take note of it, and then you respond appropriately, okay? Now, often it's very simple. Hi, how are you doing? Well, fine, thank you. But even there, you have a little bit of mental distance, so that you can see the meaning of the moment. See, you can sometimes see the meaning of the moment. Okay? But anyway, but then there are other occasions where something is required of you. And then you look within. You look to your intuition. Okay? So now, do you see the problem with reacting? See, what you're doing is you are being wrenched. You're being turned. You're being separated from your inner ground of good. You're separated from it, and now you're only outwardly focused like an animal. And then you react. Your computer brain comes up with something, and usually what it is something in kind. They're mean to you, and then you're mean to them even more than they were mean to you. Or they give you a dirty look, and you give them a dirtier look. See, see what it is. So there's no love there. There's no wisdom. See? So, now you see, you are standing there just a little bit outside of time, and you look to your intuition. I'll give you a good example. I wrote about this in my book, I believe, Putting the Forever Back in Love. The second half of that book has quite a bit about parenting in it. But I received a email, I guess, or a letter from someone named Sean. And he said, when my mom asks me to do something, she says it in such a mean, bossy way that it tempts me not to want to do it. See? And I said, okay, here's how to handle the situation. I said, if your mom asks you to do something, like let's say she asks you to take the garbage out, okay, but she does it in a real bossy, mean way. Okay, here's what you do. You let a heartbeat go by. You check with your intuition. If you can see in the inner light from your intuition, if you wordlessly kind of know that it's the right thing to do to take the garbage out, okay, to help your mom, it's the right thing to do. Then you go ahead and take the garbage out. Not because she said so, but because you see that it's wise. You see the difference? So let me Repeat it again, because this is so important. If you get this, this could be a key to changing your whole life for the better, the beginning of changing your whole life for the better. Sean says, my mom asked me to do something, and she says it in a really mean way. Okay? And she says it in such a mean way, it tempts me to rebel, to not want to do it. And I said, okay, Sean, here's what you do. You let a heartbeat go by, you check with your intuition. And if it seems like the wise thing or the right thing to do, okay, then go ahead and do it. Go ahead and take the garbage out. Not because she told you to, but because you see that it's wise. So what you're doing is you're obeying your intuition. You're obeying your conscience. You're obeying the inner light from God. See? You're not obeying her. See how that works? Now, to her, it seems like she bossed you around and now you're doing what she told you to do. Okay? But that's not what's happening. What's happening is that she told you to do something and you checked with your intuition, and your intuition wordlessly gave you to know that it's wise or the right thing to do. Take the garbage out for your mom, okay? And so you do it, and you're obeying your intuition. See how that works? So here's another example. Somebody wrote to me one time, said, well, my dad, when I'm working with my dad, out in the yard, he says things in such a mean way, yelling at me, and it tempts me to want to rebel and not want to do it. So the same advice, okay? If your dad asks you to do something, if it's reasonable, in other words, he's your dad, you're helping him do the yard work, so it makes sense, it seems reasonable, it seems wise, seems like the right thing to do. So you check with your intuition. That's what you wordlessly see, your intuition. So you obey your intuition. Okay? Now, here's another situation. Now, you're at work, and somebody comes up to you. I'll give you two, for instances. The first one, they say it in a really mean way. They ask you to do something, and it's not your job this time. Okay? So somebody comes up to you and says, would you mind doing this for me? You let a heartbeat go by, and you check with your intuition, and you see that it's you got other things to do. It's not your job, and you're too busy. So you say, no, I'm sorry, I can't do it. See? You're not angry. You're not reacting. See? You're responding to what you know in your heart. Okay? See how simple that is? And it's easy for you to say no because you don't feel guilty. See, if you reacted and became angry or became resentful, then you would feel guilty, and then you'd probably do it because to assuage the guilt. Now, here's another one. Sometimes people put things in a very syrupy, sweet way, but it's actually a demand, a couched demand, okay? Would you mind doing this for me? Oh, that would be so nice. See, but once again, you check with your intuition. Okay? If it seems wise to do so, or right, then it's okay to go ahead and do it because you see that it's wise. On the other hand, if it's not, then you just say, no, I'm sorry, I can't. Okay? See how you're responding to the inner, not the out. You're not reacting to the outside. You're responding to the inside. Okay? See how that works? You must learn to obey your intuition, what your words see know in your heart. Check with it and obey it. Okay? Or you're in a situation somewhere where let's say you're at work and they're giving you all kinds of stuff that you just can't do, or you're at school. It's just too much. You just can't meet the expectations that they have. You honestly can't. You just can't. Okay? It's too much. Or you don't get it. Or whatever. Then you know what you do. You just do the best you can. And if it's not good enough, then let it be not good enough. Okay? Don't fret over it. Don't worry about it. Don't sweat the small stuff. Okay? Just do what you can, or just go through the motions. You know, just go through the motions. If they get all upset and angry because you're not meeting their expectations, then that's their problem. See what I mean? See? Because by obeying them, doing what they said, well, you're actually responding to temptation. See? Sometimes somebody comes up on the street and asks for money. Once in a while, I'll give someone a little something. A lot of times I won't, because there's a rescue mission right down the street, and you know, it's obvious. You can see they got a cell phone, and they got a laptop, and they got, you know, all kinds of free stuff, and I use my money wisely to go on the radio and so on to help people. So I just say no, or walk on by. I don't fret over it. Sometimes I'm moved to do something for someone, and sometimes I'm not. Okay? But now here's the thing. You have a mindset of see, what love for us humans. Let me close this recording with this. The greatest love that you can know is a yearning for your Creator. Okay? A yearning for Him. And an appreciation of Him. See? And a marveling at His creation, which is more like worship. Okay? But for Him, you yearn. You yearn for Him, and you wait upon Him. And you wait for Him. See? That's the highest love you can know. And He responds. Okay? But when it comes to other people, there's not a lot you can do for them. See, when you do for other people, see, a lot of times you do too much for them. Or you do it with your ego involved, and it tempts them in some way to resent you, or you take advantage or something. Or even if you tell them the truth. A lot of times if you tell them the truth and your ego is involved somehow, or you tell them some platitude or something you read, or you try to emotionally tell them something. See, a lot of times you'll see that they're just using you. They're using you in some way. See? So you're not helping them. Okay? A lot of times, about all you can do is leave people alone, and occasionally a word of truth. But when it comes to your family, well, of course, then you have to interact with them all the time. So that calls for wisdom, doesn't it? It calls for patience and wisdom. And where are you going to get that? From your inner, from within. Okay? So you're always checking with your intuition. So you can know what's the right thing to do or say. Sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you stand there, you don't know. They bring something, ask a question, and you don't know what the right thing to do is, or what the right thing to say. You just stand there. Okay? But then sometimes all of a sudden you'll know. See, your pure search, instead of reaching within to some pre-digested thing, to some memorized thing, to say something to get rid of them, to say something to impress them, to say something to change the subject, to say something to, to do something. Instead, you just stand there innocently, and you're searching. You want to do the right thing, but you don't know what it is. Well, that's kind of an attitude. Will call down help from your Creator. Often, you'll be given within privately. You just sense something to say, and you'll blurt it out, and it'll be the right thing. Sometimes nothing is required. Okay? So now, you see then when it comes to other people, so what's the greatest love then for other people? It's not, don't hate them. The greatest love, the Dalai Lama once said something that I always have liked. He said, help the people. He said, if you can't help them, please don't hurt them. Help the people. You can't help them, please don't hurt them. Okay? So mostly what we do is what? We resent other people. So how do you love other people? You love by not resenting. You love by not hating. You love by not answering in kind. You love by not reacting. You're a little distant. Okay? You're a little distant. And to them it may seem, sometimes it may seem like you're non-caring. or cold. And they'll say, oh, you're such a cold person. No, what you're doing is you're freeing them up from the emotional response. See, all their life they've been enmeshed in sticky emotional interplays between them and other people. By not responding emotionally, you're setting them free to stand back and look at themselves, and maybe see what the truth is, okay? And respond to the truth, and then they get better. But at least you're not hurting them. So you love by not hating. You love by not resenting. You love by not judging. Okay? See, it's very powerful. Somebody says something mean to you, and you just look at them, and there's no hate. And you don't respond in kind. That's very powerful, because they see that you have another master. Now, here's one more thing I have to say real quickly. I don't have time to go into a lot of detail, but I'll just say it very quickly. When you're dealing with other people, you're dealing with a metaphysical being. See, people are part earth and part spirit. See? And so sometimes there's something in the person that's not them. It operates through them. Okay? Something is operating through them, and it is tempting you. The person, himself or herself, is a captive of it. It has them under control. It pulls their strings like a puppet, makes them react, makes them do things that are tempting. And they have little control, see. So it is operating through them. So if you react with anger or resentment, or saying something mean, or you judge the person or hate the person, you're doing what it wants you to do. It in them. You're doing what it wants you to do. And the person is hurt. See, they lose a little bit more hope. But if instead you hold up the light, it through them tempts you, and you don't respond with hate. You don't respond with judgment. You don't respond with resentment. See, you stand there, and if something is to be said, then you say it or do. If something is to be done, a gesture, something, then you do. But a lot of times nothing needs to be said. Okay? That's very powerful. And the it in them cringes because you're holding up the light. See, it's not you. The light that is in you shines forth because you've got your ego out of the way. Okay? The light shines forth, and it in them cringes and retreats, and they become a little more free. They become more free. And if they respond, see, if they respond to the light that they see in you, you don't even see it yourself. You don't even feel it yourself, but it's in you. It's what gives you the power not to respect, not to react, not to become resentful. See? And they see that. Then they may be on the mend. That may be the beginning of the change for the better for them, as they now come back to life, and it cringes and begins to wither in the light. You see? My name is Roland, and I thank you for watching this video, and Lord willing, I'll see you in my next video.